So what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 15 waiver wire pickups for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, we're going to be going in depth into 10 different players that I believe you guys should be looking to pick up off your waiver wire right now. But before we could get on into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do hit that like button down below. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 15 waiver wire pickups. We begin with my number one waiver wire pickup on the week, and that is Rashaad Penny, running back of the Seattle Seahawks, going up against the LA Rams this week in Los Angeles. It appears that Rashaad Penny is going to be the clear lead running back, the number one running back on the team in terms of touches going forward for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, there is always the chance that Pete Carroll pulls some sort of hijinks and ends up giving more touches to Alex Collins or maybe Adrian Peterson or something, but based upon what we saw last week, in my opinion, Rashaad Penny looked like the best running back this team has had lace the cleats up this season, besides Chris Carson. So based upon that performance, unless Pete Carroll is a dunce, then Rashaad Penny should be the lead running back going forward. In that game, I understand it was against the Houston Texans, but he did perform very, very well. He had 16 rushes for 137 yards, as well as 2 touchdowns. He also had 1 reception on 1 target for 1 yard. I don't think Rashaad Penny is going to go out there and be like Christian McCaffrey, getting 10 potential targets week in and week out. So I think maybe 2-3 targets a game, maybe even lower than that, with maybe just 1 like we saw last week, but I don't think that's going to matter as long as he gets the rushing volume. I understand that this is far from an ideal matchup up against the LA Rams this week, but with how little running backs there are on the waiver wire that you can actually pick up and start, I think Rashaad Penny is certainly worthy of the number one waiver wire pickup on the week. Next up, we got Justin Jackson, running back of the LA Chargers, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs this week. Tomorrow, in my opinion, I think we'll have a little bit better of an idea on if Eckler is going to be able to play or not this week. Now, reports came out a little bit earlier today that Austin Eckler is quote-unquote fine. He is fine, but they had to tape his leg up. He got messed up. I highly doubt he is going to end up playing this week. But again, I want you guys to understand that you should probably wait until tomorrow, do a little bit of research on this situation, because if it seems like Eckler is good to go, then I think picking up Justin Jackson as well as Joshua Kelley, who we're going to be talking about as the number 3 running back, may be a little bit of a waste. And the reason why they're number 2 and number 3 in my rankings is because I really do believe that it is a coin flip, but I will tell you guys why I believe Justin Jackson is the one that I ranked higher than Joshua Kelley. So Justin Jackson, last week after Austin Eckler went down up against the New York Football Giants, he had 9 rushes for 35 yards, as well as 1 reception on 1 target for 7 yards. In that same game, Joshua Kelley had 10 rushes for 33 yards. In my opinion, Justin Jackson will be used as the more receiving back, going to be seeing a little bit more receptions, and Joshua Kelley will be potentially used as more of the thumper back, potentially seeing maybe a couple more carries than Justin Jackson. But in terms of fantasy football, you're always chasing that upside. Justin Herbert loves to dump the ball off to running backs, so Justin Jackson being the pass-catching running back in this situation is why I have him ranked at number 2 over Joshua Kelley as number 3. Again, please monitor this situation up until you put in your waiver wire at the end of the night on Tuesday night to make sure that Austin Eckler is going to be out. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm about as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, but at the end of the day, I do personally believe that Austin Eckler will not be able to suit up this week. Next up, we move to KJ Osborn, wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings, going up against the Chicago Bears. This waiver wire pickup is under the assumption that Adam Thielen is out again with his high ankle sprain. If Thielen does end up returning in this game up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago, then I am far less excited about the upside of KJ Osborn, and I probably wouldn't end up playing him since he would be the wide receiver number 3 in that situation. Last week, without Adam Thielen, KJ Osborn was set in as the number 2 receiver on that team behind Justin Jefferson, and he had a very solid game. 3 receptions on 9 targets for 83 yards, as well as a score in that matchup. Going up against the Chicago Bears defense this week should be about as cupcake as it gets for the Minnesota Vikings offense. that has looked real solid as of recently, and I expect that this Minnesota Vikings offense is firing at all cylinders, even without Adam Thielen in this game. So again, if Adam Thielen misses, I think K.J. Osborn is certainly the number one wide receiver pickup on the week. He's not a guy that I want to be playing 2-3 weeks from now, but as long as Adam Thielen is out, I think K.J. Osborn is in a very great situation to succeed. But before we could get on in to the next waiver wire pickup, I would like to let you guys know that we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season to bring you guys some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you guys 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link down below, deposit, and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we'll reach out to you via email with your coupon. If you would like immediate access, that's okay as well. All you got to do is email support@awesemo.com, and we'll get you set up right away. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link down below in the video description, which can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's $100,000 Monday Night NFL Baller. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give you guys the best shot at winning big. Again, please make sure that you check out Yahoo Fantasy, link down below in the video description. Next up, we move to another wide receiver, DeVante Parker of the Miami Dolphins, going up against the New York Jumbo Jets this week. Parker is locked and loaded as the second wide receiver option on the Dolphins offense behind Jalen Waddle. Now, eventually, maybe Will Fuller will end up making a triumphant return, but every single week, I try to talk myself into the fact that this motherfucker is going to end up returning, and he never does, so it is what it is. I don't even think Will Fuller is honestly going to come back by the end of the season, so DeVante Parker should be locked and loaded as the number 2 guy behind Mr. Jalen Waddle all season long. In his last performance in week number 13 up against the Giants, we are not going to be looking at week number 14 because the Miami Dolphins were on bye. He had 5 receptions up against the Giants on 5 targets for 62 yards. Tua Tagovailoa has looked like he has improved greatly from the beginning of the season until right now. I understand that a lot of people call him check down Tua. You can make fun of him all you want, but the guy has been playing well. This Dolphins team has been playing well, and I believe that this is an absolute certified beatdown, WWE style, SmackDown versus Raw. DeVante Parker absolutely decimates the New York Jumbo Jets this week. Next, we move to a quarterback with Taysom Hill, quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay this week. Despite having mallet finger and despite not being a good quarterback at all, Taysom Hill continues to dominate in fantasy football with 2 weeks in a row having over 20 points. Last week up against the Jets, he had 15 completions on 21 attempts for 175 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, as well as 11 rushes for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. This man, the week prior up against the Dallas Cowboys, threw 4 fucking interceptions and still scored over 20 points. Because the rushing for fantasy football quarterbacks is insane. So play Taysom Hill. This is far from an ideal matchup, but I still think he gets it done in terms of fantasy football due to that rushing upside. Next up, we pivot to Jordan Howard, running back of the Philadelphia Eagles, going up against the Washington football team this week. With Jordan Howard as well as Miles Sanders eyeing a return this week following their bye, Howard is worth a speculative add as Nick Sirianni just has some type of love affection towards feeding Jordan Howard the ball. I don't know why, but he does, and I think even with Miles Sanders there, that Jordan Howard is still going to be seeing the rock. Now, would I go ahead and bang the drum aggressively and tell you to start Jordan Howard this week? Of course not, but I do believe he is worthy of an ad. In week number 11, up against the New Orleans Saints, which is the last time that Jordan Howard ended up playing, he had 10 rushes for 63 yards, so again, nothing special, but if he's vulturing the touchdowns from Miles Sanders and seeing a decent amount of work week in and week out, then you'll be very happy about your Jordan Howard pickup this week. Next up, we move to Russell Gage, wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons, going up against the San Francisco 49ers this week in San Francisco. Last week up against the Carolina Panthers, he had 4 receptions on 6 targets for 64 yards. With the volume that Gage has been seeing as of recently, earlier on in the season, the volume was very suspect. There were games where he had literally 0 targets, but recently he has been a lot more consistent that I believe that Russell Gage should be rostered and could definitely be played this week because of the volume that he's been receiving and how he's been a lot more consistent as of recently. Am I in love with Russell Gage, kind of like Jordan Howard? No, but I definitely think that Russell Gage is potentially worthy of a start, especially if you're in a deeper league this week. And we did see Kyle Pitts play a little bit better this week, but if I'm being honest with you, Pitts has these games all the time where he has a good game and then kind of just fades away. So I think Russell Gage will be just fine. Next up, we got Jeff Wilson Jr., running back of the San Francisco 49ers, going up against the Atlanta Falcons. This is a very similar situation to what we've discussed with a couple of players in this video. This ad entirely hinges on the fact that Elijah Mitchell does not end up playing this week up against the Atlanta Falcons, because if Elijah Mitchell plays, he is going to be the clear workhorse running back on the team. So if Mitchell is back, then just go ahead and throw Jeff Wilson back on the bench. But if he does end up missing, I think Jeff Wilson is a fringe start, maybe a fringe running back too. Not very excited about him, but is definitely worthy of an ad. In week number 14 up against the Cincinnati Bengals, he had 13 rushes for 56 yards. Nothing special, but up against the Atlanta Falcons, maybe he could look a lot better in this matchup. Final player to discuss as a waiver wire pickup for week number 15, Amon-Ra St.Brown, wide receiver of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Arizona Cardinals this week at home in Detroit. 2 weeks in a row now that Amon-Ra St.Brown has had 12 total targets. While it has been hard to dissect all year long for the Detroit Lions, which one of these guys is the lead receiver? Some weeks you're seeing Khalif Raymond, other weeks you're seeing Josh Reynolds, other weeks you're seeing Amon-Ra St.Brown, but as of recently, over the last 2 games, it has been pretty clear that Amon-Ra St.Brown is the alpha wide receiver, the number 1 guy on the team. Last week up against the Denver Broncos, despite the fact that they got absolutely shellacked in that game, they got beat down. He had 8 receptions on 12 targets for 73 yards. If this volume continues, then Amon-Ra St.Brown will be a valuable wide receiver that could potentially help you win your league down the stretch of the season. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. Please make sure that you check out Yahoo Fantasy, link down below in the description. I love you guys all. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Love you guys as always. Goodbye.